You know that feeling when something just doesn't add up? You've been doing everything right, budgeting carefully, following the rules, watching every penny, and yet, month after month, it still feels like you're falling behind. Not just a little bit, but noticeably. Like the rug is being slowly pulled out from underneath you, but no one's acknowledging it. They just keep telling you that things are fine, that inflation is under control, that benefits are keeping pace, and that seniors are being taken care of. But if that's true, then why does everything feel harder than it did just a few years ago? Groceries didn't used to cost this much. Medications weren't such a tough choice between one or the other. And yet here we are. Hearing from officials who act like a tiny increase in benefits each year is somehow generous, when the reality for millions of people, especially seniors and disabled Americans, is that these benefits haven't even come close to keeping up with real life costs. You're not imagining it. You're not the only one. And you're not wrong to feel that this system has been letting you down. If you've ever felt like your Social Security or disability check just doesn't go as far as it used to, there's a reason. And by the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly how much money you've actually lost in just the past couple of years. And more importantly, what number advocates are demanding that Congress send back to every eligible beneficiary. It's not just a little cost of living bump. We're talking about a catch up payment, a correction, a fix that would put real cash back in the hands of the people who need it most, but only if enough people know what's happening and demand action. So if you rely on Social Security, SSDI, SSI, survivor, spousal, or VA benefits, or if you care about someone who does, stick around, because you're about to learn the real numbers that they don't talk about in the headlines. This isn't a rumor or some wild theory. It comes from a nonpartisan organization that works specifically to protect seniors' financial well being. And once you see the gap they uncovered, you'll understand why there's finally a growing movement to make this right. Before we go any further, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on because I cover all the real updates that affect your money without the fluff or confusing language. If you appreciate real talk on these issues, take a second to click that button. Now, let's break this down step by step because it's a complicated issue that's been brushed under the rug for too long. First, the math doesn't lie. Over the last 2 years, inflation has run hotter than any cost of living adjustment could realistically keep up with. The COLAs that were issued, while they looked high on paper, were based on a lagging formula that doesn't reflect what seniors are actually spending money on. In fact, essentials like food, housing, medical care, and utilities have all gone up at a much faster pace than the official COLA percentages. So even though benefits technically increased, they didn't increase enough. And when you combine that with the rising out of pocket costs for Medicare Part B premiums, copays, and uncovered treatments, it's easy to see how recipients are falling further and further behind. That's where the new report comes in. A respected advocacy group ran the numbers and found something shocking. The average senior or disabled beneficiary is now underpaid by at least $370, not per year, per month. That's the amount it would take to bring people back to where they were before inflation began eating away at their buying power. Think about that for a second. $370 every single month that's essentially been lost due to policy failure and outdated calculations. That's over $4,400 per year per person that should have been in your pocket but wasn't. Multiply that across tens of millions of beneficiaries, and you're looking at a massive systemic shortfall. That's not just a glitch. That's a betrayal of the promise that Social Security and disability benefits are supposed to keep people out of poverty. And here's the thing, this group isn't just throwing out numbers. They've issued a formal call to Congress, urging lawmakers to pass legislation that would issue a retroactive payment to all Social Security and disability beneficiaries to make up for this exact shortfall. A $370 monthly increase that would go directly to the people who need it most. Not a one time check, not a vague promise for the future. A targeted correction for inflation theft that's already happened. Now, if you're wondering why you haven't heard about this yet, you're not alone. It's not the kind of thing that gets front page headlines or leads the evening news, but behind the scenes, pressure is building. And the more people who understand what's been taken from them, the louder that pressure gets. So let's talk about what this would actually mean. If Congress acted on this recommendation and issued the monthly correction, you could see an additional $370 added to your benefit amount every single month going forward. That would help cover rent increases. It would help put better food on the table. It would help pay for uncovered medications, or finally allow you to replace something you've been doing without. And for many, it would simply mean peace of mind for the first time in years. But this is where the emotional part comes in. Because we're not just talking about dollars and cents, we're talking about people's lives, about grandparents skipping meals so their grandkids can eat, about disabled adults trying to choose between pain relief and electricity, about widows trying to stay in their homes with nothing but a tiny survivor benefit and skyrocketing bills. These are not luxuries we're talking about. They are basic necessities that millions of Americans are struggling to afford every single day. And that's why this proposal is so important. Because if nothing is done, the gap only gets wider. Inflation may cool down on paper, but prices rarely go back down. Once the damage is done, it sticks. So if Congress doesn't take this seriously and act now, the theft becomes permanent. The loss becomes locked in. And future COLAs won't fix what's already been lost. Let's be clear about something else. This isn't about giving people free money. It's about restoring what was unfairly taken. It's about making sure the promise of Social Security, that it will protect you in retirement or in disability, is actually kept. And it's about holding the system accountable for failing to adjust quickly enough when seniors needed it most. Now, the path forward isn't guaranteed. Some lawmakers will argue that there's no money. Others will say the formulas are fine and that people should just adjust. But that's not acceptable. Because if this were a corporate bailout or a military budget increase, they'd find the money instantly. So the question isn't whether the money exists, it's whether there's the political will to prioritize seniors and the disabled for once. That's why your voice matters. That's why advocacy groups are pushing hard. And that's why I'm bringing you this message today. Because this fight will only be won if the people affected by it speak up. Call your representatives, join advocacy campaigns, share this video, get informed, because that's how change happens. If we're being honest, most people in power don't even notice how bad things have gotten for everyday seniors and people on fixed incomes. They're not lining up at the pharmacy counter having to choose between heart meds and groceries. They're not counting every light bulb left on overnight. But you and I know the reality. That's why getting this money back into the hands of those who earned it through decades of work isn't some handout, it's justice. And while it might just be a number on paper to Congress, it's a heating bill, a bus pass, or a full fridge for someone else. It's not about extra luxuries. It's about restoring basic fairness, adjusting for the losses already suffered. And if enough of us raise our voices, sign petitions, and talk about it